Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we uncover the hidden stories in SEC filings with a bit of a smirk. But today we are diving into MFS Variable Insurance Trust 2's latest semi-annual report, and let me tell you, things are looking quite interesting in the world of investments as of June 30, 2025. We're looking at a semi-annual shareholder report covering the period from January 1, 2025 to June 30, 2025, and the company is MFS Variable Insurance Trust 2. This report gives us the inside scoop on several of their portfolios. First up is the MFS corporate bond portfolio, which ended June 30, 2025, with net assets of over $131 million. When we look at how their money is invested, we see a heavy emphasis on fixed income making up 96.7% of their portfolio, with money market funds at 33%. Geographically, the fund holds the most in the United States at 72%, then Canada at 4%, and the United Kingdom at 3.6%. Digging into the credit quality for their fixed income holdings, we see a large chunk BBB rated at 51.1%, which means it's considered investment grade but has some moderate risk, and A rated at 28%. Definitely shows a focus on quality there. Now for investors, the big question: what were the costs for the last 6 months? For the initial class held in a hypothetical 10,000 investment, the costs were 32, which is 0.63% annualized. That's pretty reasonable for a corporate bond fund. Next, we move to the MFS Variable Insurance Trust 2 Service Class Semi-Annual Shareholder Report. It follows a similar pattern but with slightly different expense numbers. For the service class, the costs were 45 for a 10,000 investment annually. That's 0.88%, a bit higher than the initial class as expected. Now let's shift gears to the MFS Blended Research Core Equity Portfolio. This fund had net assets of a whopping $397 million and a portfolio turnover rate of 21%. Their structure is almost entirely equities at 99.3%, with just 0.7% in money market funds. The sector breakdown is a bit tech heavy, with information technology leading at 31.8%, followed by financials at 14.4% and communication services at 10.6%. And the top holdings tell an even clearer story, and Nvidia Corp alone makes up 8.1% of the portfolio, followed by Microsoft Corp at 6.9% and Apple Inc. at 5.5%. This tells us the fund is heavily invested in the biggest tech players. For this portfolio, the initial class costs on a 10,000 investment were 22, that's 0.44% annualized, which is quite competitive. Then we have the MFS Emerging Markets Equity Portfolio with net assets of $37 million. This one is also very heavy on equities at 99%, with just 1% in money market funds. Here we see Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. Limited leading the pack at 10%, followed by Tencent Holdings Limited at 6.1% and Samsung Electronics Corp Limited at 3%. Geographically, it's a deep dive into emerging markets. China is the largest holding at 28.7%, followed by Taiwan at 15.5% and India at 14.7%. Scroll fund expense, which brings us to the expenses for the initial class A 1,000 investment cost 66 or 1.23% annualized. This is on the higher side compared to the previous funds, definitely something to note for emerging markets funds. Moving on to the MFS International Intrinsic Value Portfolio with massive net assets of $1.4 billion. Scroll portfolio structure is 98.1% equities and 1.9% money market funds, very similar to the core equity. Scroll top 10 holdings are dominated by European companies. Franco-Nevada Corp is at 3.4%, followed by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company Limited ADR, also at 3.4%, and NatWest Group PLC at 3.1%. Scroll Issuer Country Weighting Scroll country-wise, France and the United Kingdom are neck and neck each, around 16%, then Japan at 12.7%. Scroll and expense scroll cross. The expenses here for the initial class are 48 or 0.89% annualized, a bit higher than the core equity fund, but still in a reasonable range for international investments. Scroll MFS International Growth Portfolio, Scroll. And then we have the MFS International Growth Portfolio with net assets of $323 million and a turnover rate of 11%. Scroll portfolio structural for you, it is 97.5% equities and 2.5% money market funds. Scroll top 10 holdings are a mix of global giants. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Copier Limited is at 5.2%, followed by SAP SE at 3.9%, and Hitachi Limited at 3.8%. Scroll Asia country weightings for interesting here. France is 13.5%, Japan 10.5%, Japan 10.5%, and Germany 10.1%. Scroll fund expense. Scroll kit expenses for the initial class, a 1,000 investment cost 47 or 0.88% annualized. This is quite moderate for an international growth fund. Scroll MFS Government Securities Portfolio, Scroll T. Now let's talk about the MFS Government Securities Portfolio with $264 million in net assets. Scroll portfolio structure structures 90, 9% fixed income and 9 type funds, clearly indicating its focus on stability and government backing. Scroll composition, including fixed income credit quality, we see a strong preference for AAA rated instruments at 6.6% and federal agencies at a massive 58.7%. This fund is all about safety. Scroll funding sectors across the expenses for the initial class on 1,000 investment were 28 or 0.56% annualized, which is quite low, reflecting its conservative nature. Scroll MFS high yield portfolio with $22 million high yield portfolio with $222 million in net assets and a portfolio turnover rate of 24%. Scroll portfolio structures 97.6% fixed income and 2.2% money market funds. Scroll composition, including fixed income credit quality. BP rated securities are at 42.2% and B rated are at 42.3%. So this fund is definitely playing in the riskier high yield space. CC rated is also present at 12.5%. Scroll fund expenses. Scroll KEDS expenses for this high yield fund for the initial class on a 10,000 investment were 37 or 0.72% annualized. This is higher than government securities, but typical for high yield given the increased risk and research involved. Scroll MFS Massachusetts Investors Growth Stock Portfolio. Scroll. Finally, let's look at the MFS Massachusetts Investors Growth Stock Portfolio with a substantial $960 million in net assets. Scroll portfolio structure value of this fund is almost entirely equities at 98.8%, with a small 1.2% in money market funds. Scroll equity sector breakdown is heavily tilted towards information technology at 38.5%, then financials at 14.3%, and healthcare at 11.1%. Scroll top 10 holdings are dominated by tech giants. Microsoft Corp alone is a massive 15.1%, followed by Nvidia Corp at 6.3% and Apple Inc. at 4.6%. Scroll fund expense. Scroll KEC expenses for the initial class A and N-1000 are 36 or 0.72% annualized. This is a moderate expense ratio for a large cap growth fund. Overall, these filings give us a detailed look at MFS Variable Insurance Trust II's diverse investment strategies, ranging from the safety of government securities to the higher risk of high yield and emerging markets equities. The financial tables reveal a consistent focus on established companies in the equity portfolios and a preference for higher quality or government-backed entities in their fixed income offerings. However, the expense ratios vary, significantly reflecting the different management strategies and risks involved. It seems MFS is playing it safe with bond funds while betting on big tech and growth for their equity exposure, a strategy that's common but always hard where the expense ratios vary, significantly reflecting the different management strategies and risks involved. It seems MFS is playing it safe with bond funds while betting on big tech and growth for their equity exposure. And that's our deep dive into this MFS filing. What are your thoughts on the firm's investment strategies and performance? Let us know in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit like and subscribe for more corporate decoder content. And don't forget to join our Discord community linked in the description below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.